So, what if everything you thought you knew about your job, your community, even your faith was about to be flipped on its head? That's kind of what we're diving into today. We're looking at a story that uses this really simple but powerful idea, new wine, to talk about a total revolution in how we see the world. Okay, so picture this. You've got these professional fishermen, right? These guys are experts. They know the water like the back of their hand. They've been out all night long working their tails off. And what do they have to show for it? Absolutely nothing. Their nets are empty, their boats are empty, and you can bet they're feeling pretty empty too. Yeah, that's the number that says it all. 0. A big fat nothing. And look, this isn't just a streak of bad luck. This is like everything they know, all their skill, all that sweat. It's been for nothing. It's a total failure. And honestly, this is right where the real story kicks off. But here's a thought. What if this total rock bottom moment is actually an opening? What if those empty nets are about to be filled with something way more important than fish? We're about to see this moment of despair turn into a seriously life-changing offer. And you can just feel the tension here, can't you? You have this teacher, Jesus, telling a master fisherman how to fish. And honestly, the advice sounds kind of dumb. Go out into the deep water now? Simon, the pro, knows this is a waste of time. You can just imagine him thinking, we've been doing this all night. But then something shifts. He says, because you say so. And he does it. He takes this little leap of faith, and what happens next? It completely shatters all logic. And we're not just talking about a lucky catch here. This is insane. The nets are literally starting to tear apart. The boats are so full of fish, they're actually starting to sink. This isn't just a blessing. It's so overwhelming, it's almost dangerous. And then comes the big twist. Turns out, this was never really about the fish. The fish were just the opening act. The real point of all this was a totally new mission, a job offer that must have sounded crazy. From now on, you're going to fish for people. I mean, just stop and think about that for a second. They don't just leave the fish on the shore. They leave everything. Their boats, their nets, their entire family business. The very thing that was just miraculously saved, they just walk away from it. All to follow a guy they barely know. That's a level of commitment that's just, wow, hard to even wrap your head around. Okay, so these fishermen are all in. But what does fishing for people even mean, right? Well, as we're about to see, it has nothing to do with a career change. It's about to challenge the very rules of their society, starting with who gets to be considered in and who's left out. So back then, having leprosy wasn't just a medical problem. It basically meant you were cursed. You were an outcast, considered unclean. You weren't supposed to even get near anyone, and nobody was supposed to touch you. So when Jesus not only talks to this man, but actually reaches out and touches him, that's huge. He's not just healing his skin, he's smashing a major taboo and saying, you matter. You're not an outcast to me. All right, if you thought that was bold, get this next scene. Imagine a house, totally jam-packed, and sitting right there are all the religious experts. You know, the guys who enforce all the rules. And all of a sudden, the roof starts coming apart. Dust is falling, and a paralyzed guy on a mat gets lowered right down into the middle of the room. I mean, talk about making an entrance. The stage is definitely set for some drama. And what Jesus does next is pretty clever. He looks at this man, who obviously can't walk, but he also sees the religious leaders just staring, waiting for him to make a wrong move. So instead of just healing the guy, he says something else first. He addresses his sins. He's basically picking a fight on purpose. He's changing the subject from a simple healing to something way more explosive, his own authority. And boom, that's the turning point. As far as these leaders are concerned, Jesus just crossed a line, a big one. Because in their world, only God can forgive sins. For a human to claim that power, that's blasphemy. That's the worst crime you can commit. And from this moment on, he's got a target on his back. But Jesus' comeback is just perfect. He basically asks them, hey, what's easier to say? Your sins are forgiven, or get up and walk. And then, to prove he has the authority to do the thing they can't see, forgive sins, he does the thing they can see. He tells the man to get up, and he does. He just walks out. It's like a mic drop moment. The critics have absolutely nothing to say. So, Jesus just went head-to-head with the religious authorities and pretty much won. But he's not done. Now, he's going to take on the entire social structure. And this time, it's going to get personal. Okay, so tax collectors back then, think of the most despised people in society. They were seen as traitors, working for the enemy, the Romans, and everyone knew they were corrupt, skimming off the top. They were total outcasts. So when Jesus walks up to one of them, Levi, and says, "Follow me," and makes him part of his inner circle, that's not just a friendly invitation. That's a huge statement. And when the religious folks complain about him hanging out with these sinners, Jesus' answer completely redefines what he's all about. He's like, look, healthy people don't need a doctor, right? Sick people do. He's basically saying, I'm not here for the people who think they've got it all figured out. I'm here for the ones who are struggling, the ones everyone else has given up on. And that right there is the heart of his message. It's a direct shot at the establishment. Their whole system was built on separation, keeping the pure away from the impure. His whole mission is about inclusion, bringing healing to everyone. These are two completely opposite ways of seeing the world, and you just know a collision is coming. So we've seen him challenge the experts and shake up the social ladder. But what's the big idea connecting all of this? Well, in this last part, Jesus pulls it all together with one simple, powerful metaphor that you won't forget. And funnily enough, the final confrontation starts over something that sounds kind of small: fasting. All the other religious groups are fasting, following the rules. But Jesus' followers? They're having parties. So people ask the obvious question, why aren't your guys playing by the rules? And his answer? Well, it explains everything. So to explain, he uses this image everyone would get: old wineskins. Just think of an old leather water bottle. It's gotten hard, brittle, and stiff over time. It represents the old ways, the established traditions, the rigid rules. They're familiar, sure, but they can't stretch, they can't change. And then you have the new wine. This isn't just a slightly different teaching. It's something alive, something that's fermenting and expanding. It's got this energy, this fizz, this life that's pushing outwards. It's dynamic, and it cannot be held still. And here's this whole point. You can't put this new, expanding, living thing into that old, brittle container. It just won't work. The new wine will bubble up and pop. It'll burst the old wineskin. This isn't about tweaking the old system. It's about the need for something entirely new. And suddenly, it all clicks into place, right? Calling those fishermen when their nets were empty, healing the man no one would touch, having dinner with the people everyone hated. These weren't just random events. Each one was a perfect example of the new wine in action. And each one showed that the old wineskins, the old rules and traditions, just couldn't handle it anymore. So this whole story leaves us with a really challenging idea. It makes you wonder, what are the old wineskins in our world today? You know, the rigid systems or old ways of thinking that are holding back something new and exciting. And maybe the tougher question is, are we brave enough to let them break?